Billionaire husband's pregnant wife exposes his affair. Mistress never expected this outcome. Beneath the glittering facade of high society lies a tangled web of secrets, betrayal, and shocking discoveries. Alicia Montgomery, wife of multi-millionaire entrepreneur Lucas Montgomery, thought she had the perfect life: enchanting cocktail parties, stunning designer wardrobes, and a reputation that made her the envy of all. But when a whispered rumor about her husband's fidelity slithers into her world, Alicia embarks on a daring quest to unearth the truth. Confronted with intrigue and treachery, she must navigate cunning business associates, hidden documents, and a mistress hungry for power. The stage is set for a confrontation no one ever expected, with consequences that will send shockwaves through their entire social circle. Alicia Montgomery stepped out of her chauffeured limousine, a subtle smile curving her rose-tinted lips. The paparazzi flashes bounced off her shimmering sapphire gown, making her feel like a star in her own private constellation. Behind her, Lucas Montgomery, her husband of 15 years and a formidable real estate mogul, drummed his manicured fingers against the doorframe of the sleek Mercedes. With his salt and pepper hair meticulously styled and a confident set to his broad shoulders, he radiated success in every way that mattered, from his custom-tailored tuxedo to the subtle gleam of his platinum wristwatch. They were at the annual Anderson Foundation Gala, a highlight of the city's philanthropic calendar. A dozen cameras captured their arrival, each photograph reinforcing the image of an unassailable power couple. Indeed, Alicia was the darling of the philanthropic world, a woman who seemed to inspire both awe and envy. On social media, she was admired for her grace, her seemingly perfect marriage, and her unwavering ability to juggle charitable endeavors with the pressure of her husband's high-profile business empire. Yet within Alicia's mind, an uneasy tension had begun to coil. For weeks, fleeting rumors about Lucas's late-night meetings and hush-hush phone calls had spun through her social circle. She pretended not to notice the discreet glances her friends exchanged, or the sharp silence that followed when she entered the room. But deep inside, something told her that all was not well. As they walked through the opulent ballroom, adorned with gilded arches and crystal chandeliers, Alicia couldn't help but feel a pang of apprehension. She caught a glimpse of her reflection in a passing mirror, her dark hair swept into an elegant chignon and diamond earrings dangling near her slender neck. She looked regal, confident even. Yet her heart fluttered with unspoken questions. Did she truly know what was happening in her husband's life? And if there was a secret, how far had it burrowed into their marriage? Within minutes, Lucas was pulled into discussions about a new joint venture with an influential developer, James Levine. Levine was one of those men who exuded authority, and the intensity in his eyes hinted that he knew more about the Montgomery fortune than he let on. While Alicia stood beside Lucas, a swirl of wealthy donors, celebrities, and city officials enveloped them in warm greetings and polite conversation. The room buzzed with talk of stock investments, real estate expansions, and the next big philanthropic project. Suddenly, Alicia felt a gentle tap on her shoulder. Turning around, she found her longtime friend and confidant, Camila Ortiz. The two women exchanged quick hugs before Camila whispered, "Alicia, I need to speak with you privately. It's important." Camila's anxious tone ignited a flicker of dread in Alicia's chest, but she followed her friend across the gleaming marble floor toward a more secluded alcove near the side of the room. There, beneath a portrait of the foundation's benefactor, Camila leaned in closer. "Alicia, I overheard something," Camila said, worry etched on her features. "I think," she paused, taking a breath, "I think Lucas is having an affair." Time seemed to slow in that moment as the words struck Alicia like a sudden gust of freezing wind. She squeezed Camilla's hand, needing the comfort of that human touch. The illusions of perfection around her began to crack, threatening to shatter entirely. Alicia's mind raced as she stared into the glittering crowd, each face suddenly unfamiliar, each friendly smile laced with suspicion. But she knew one thing for certain. If her husband was betraying her, she needed proof. For days after the gala, Alicia wrestled with Camila's warning. She replayed the conversation in her mind, trying to identify any detail she might have overlooked. But her friend's message had been painfully clear. Something was amiss, and it was only a matter of time before Alicia confronted the truth of her marriage. Alicia remembered her early years with Lucas, when they were both struggling to find their place in the world, too naive to sense the storms that wealth could bring. He had been ambitious but kind, vulnerable behind his dreams of building a real estate empire. She had fallen in love with that youthful glow of determination, the fervor in his eyes. Together, they had weathered countless nights of second-guessing a new business venture or losing a crucial investor. When success finally arrived, it felt like vindication of everything they had worked for. They bought a magnificent house with sweeping ocean views in a prestigious area of Los Angeles, complete with Italian marble floors and a rose garden Alicia tended with pride. They welcomed their daughter, Sophia, into the world just as Lucas's fortune soared. For many years, Alicia believed that they were living a fairy tale of their own making. But now, each innocent memory clashed with the ominous hush that had crept into their marriage. Late at night, Alicia would awaken to find the other side of the bed cold and empty. On the nights when Lucas was home, he would slip out to the balcony for whispered phone calls that ended as soon as she approached. Even in broad daylight, his expression seemed distant, as though he were mentally calculating the risk of being caught. Determined to either quell or confirm her suspicions, Alicia took matters into her own hands. She began by making subtle observations. The cologne wafting from Lucas's suits, receipts from lavish restaurants in parts of town they rarely frequented together, and muted phone notifications with no sender name. She searched for any digital trail. After obtaining Lucas's phone records under the guise of needing to verify certain business expenses, she painstakingly reviewed them. Most numbers were recognizable: clients, colleagues, family. One number, however, surfaced frequently and at all hours of the day or night. It was an unregistered cell phone with no direct link to a known contact. Her heart thudded. She copied the suspicious number and passed it to a private investigator, a discreet older man named Howard Winters. They had met once at a social event, and Alicia remembered that he specialized in corporate espionage for high-profile clients. With tight lips and a glimmer of sympathy in his eyes, Howard told her that he would handle the matter with the utmost confidentiality. As days turned into a tense week, Alicia's patience frayed. She could scarcely sleep, her mind plagued by nightmare scenarios of a beautiful woman luring Lucas away or reading about their affair in the tabloids. She forced herself to maintain a facade of normalcy, hosting small charity luncheons and calling her mother, Harriet, in Chicago for light-hearted gossip. Finally, Howard's voice crackled through her phone on a Tuesday evening, just after Lucas had dashed out to attend yet another urgent business meeting. Alicia stepped onto her terrace, gazing at the infinite ocean as she answered. "I have some news," Howard said in a grave tone. Alicia's grip on her phone tightened. "Go on," he sighed. "The number belongs to a woman named Vivian Brooks. She works at a high-end brokerage firm downtown. I have photographs showing them together on multiple occasions, restaurants, private clubs, even a weekend trip to Santa Barbara. They're close." The sound of the waves crashing against the rocks below did nothing to calm Alicia's spiraling thoughts. She felt a rush of anger and heartbreak. No matter how much she had tried to prepare for this moment, the reality shattered her carefully constructed world. She hung up and sank into a terrace chair. For a long time, she stared at the horizon, tears pooling silently at the corners of her eyes. The sun dipped below the horizon, and in that gathering darkness, Alicia vowed she would unravel the depths of Lucas's deception and ensure that his mistress, this Vivian Brooks, faced consequences far beyond her wildest imagination. Alicia's first glimpse of Vivian Brooks came unexpectedly. She had asked Howard to keep watch, capturing snapshots whenever Vivian and Lucas met. One afternoon, Alicia found a manila envelope on her doorstep. Inside were pictures that told a stark, undeniable story. In each photo, Vivian looked poised and confident. Shoulder-length blonde hair framed her delicate features, and her designer dresses, ranging from sleek office attire to glamorous evening gowns, hinted at the kind of lifestyle Lucas's money could buy. As Alicia flipped through the photographs, she felt simultaneously repulsed and fascinated. There was one image in particular that made her chest tighten. Lucas and Vivian standing under a crimson awning at an exclusive Beverly Hills bistro, smiling in a way that Alicia hadn't seen on her husband's face in years. The intimacy was unmistakable. Vivian's hand rested on his forearm, her eyes sparkling as if she knew he was hers, at least for the moment. Rather than confront Lucas openly, Alicia took a bolder step. She decided to contact Vivian directly, weaving a ruse to corner her. The plan was simple. Alicia called Vivian's brokerage firm, pretending to be a wealthy investor seeking to purchase prime commercial real estate. She knew enough about the market through Lucas to sound credible, and soon enough, Vivian herself returned the call. "Good afternoon, Mistress." "Night," Vivian said cheerfully, referencing the pseudonym Alicia had given. "I understand you're interested in our new downtown listings. I'd be delighted to schedule a meeting to discuss your investment objectives." Alicia forced a confident laugh that belied the rage roiling within. "That sounds wonderful. I'd like to meet tomorrow at the Colonial Hotel Lounge, if you're available." Vivian readily agreed, and Alicia noted the excitement in her voice. It was the same excitement Alicia once felt when meeting prospective donors or forging new philanthropic partnerships. But there was something else Alicia heard in Vivian's tone, an ambitious edge that hinted at a woman hungry for more than just a sale. The next day, Alicia arrived at the Colonial Hotel Lounge earlier than planned. Elegant and quietly exclusive, the lounge was furnished with plush chairs and subdued lighting. She selected a corner table from which she could observe Vivian's entrance without being immediately noticed. Her heart pounded at the thought of coming face to face with the woman who had disrupted her marriage. When Vivian finally strolled in, Alicia almost didn't recognize her from the photographs. In person, the mistress seemed even more polished, a warm smile gracing her expertly made-up face. She scanned the room, presumably searching for Miss S. Knight. Alicia gave a subtle wave. Introductions were cordial but cautious. Alicia studied Vivian's every move, from the way she flicked her hair back to how she scanned the menu for a suitably extravagant drink. Watching her, Alicia felt a wave of contempt and pity. Here was a woman who had no qualms about entering a relationship with a married man, likely swayed by his promises of luxury and elevation in social standing. They spoke about prime office spaces and potential returns on investment, Vivian displaying a commendable level of expertise. Alicia nodded, occasionally asking pointed questions about finances and insider knowledge. Yet behind her calm demeanor, Alicia's mind churned, searching for the cracks in this woman's poised facade. Eventually, Alicia set her menu down and met Vivian's eyes. "Actually, Miss Brooks, I have a confession." Vivian's brow arched slightly. "Yes, Mrs. Knight?" Alicia leaned in, lowering her voice. "I'm not actually in the market for property." She paused, letting the moment pulse with tension. "My real name is Alicia Montgomery." Vivian's expression froze. Her confident smile fell away, replaced by a flicker of shock. Alicia could practically see her brain whirring. she pressed on, taking advantage of the mistress's disorientation. "I know about you and Lucas," Alicia said quietly. "I know everything." For a split second, Vivian's eyes widened with terror, but Alicia caught a glimpse of something else, a hardened defiance. This was not a timid mistress prepared to slink away in shame. No, there was an unmistakable gleam in Vivian's eyes that said she would fight for the lavish dream she had already begun to inhabit. Alicia had anticipated many possible reactions, from apologies to blustering denials. She had not prepared for what came next. Vivian's composure returned with startling speed. She set her glass down gently, the ice clinking in her drink. The corners of her lips curved into a near imperceptible smirk. "Alicia Montgomery," she repeated, as though tasting the name on her tongue. "I've heard so much about you." Alicia felt a rush of anger, but she kept her voice level. "Then you should know exactly who I am and what I'm capable of," she said, determined not to let Vivian see any vulnerability. Vivian paused, her eyes flicking around the lounge as though assessing potential eavesdroppers. Satisfied they had enough privacy, she tilted her head, a hint of challenge in her voice. "I also know how unhappy your husband has been in recent years." She leaned forward, her tone dripping with condescension. "He's told me everything, Alicia, how you've grown distant, how your lives revolve around formal galas and society fundraisers. You're more of a business partner than a wife. Lucas wants more, he deserves more." Alicia's pulse quickened, a sting of betrayal coursing through her. She recalled the early days when she and Lucas had built a life together. How dare he reduce their bond to a loveless contract? Yet, she also realized this was precisely the narrative Vivian would spin to justify her role as a mistress. Maintaining her composure, Alicia replied, "You've met him at a vulnerable time. He's drowning in new obligations and desperate for an escape. But don't mistake that desperation for love. Men like Lucas are skilled at acquiring what they want." Vivian's smirk only deepened. "I never claimed we were in love, but he's quite generous, and we have an understanding. I do things for him you never will. I offer him a thrill." Alicia refused to let the venom in those words rattle her. She drew a steadying breath. "Is that what you think all this is? A transaction for money and excitement?" Vivian shrugged, crossing her legs elegantly. "I'm not naive. I know exactly what I bring to the table. And I know what Lucas brings as well. Don't think I'm just some woman looking to steal your husband out of sheer romance. I understand how power works, and I intend to keep what's mine." The audacity of calling Lucas hers ignited Alicia's fury. She briefly imagined overturning the table and storming out, but such a public display would only feed the gossip mill. Instead, Alicia took a calm sip of her drink. "Enjoy your illusions while they last, Miss Brooks," she said icily, "because you'll learn how quickly they can crumble." Vivian appeared unimpressed, a faint laugh escaping her lips. "Is that a threat?" "It's a promise," Alicia answered. They stared at each other in silence, the tension between them nearly tangible. In that moment, Alicia realized she was dealing with a formidable adversary, a woman as ambitious and cunning as the most ruthless business magnate. This was no mere fling or one-night stand. Vivian had meticulously integrated herself into Lucas's life, and her smug confidence suggested she was prepared to defend her position at all costs. Alicia stood, smoothing her skirt. She had gleaned enough. Vivian would not be frightened away with mild confrontations. This was going to be a battle of strategy, patience, and unyielding resolve. As Alicia turned to leave, Vivian's parting words sliced through the air like a finely sharpened blade. "Be careful, Miss S. Montgomery. Rich men have left their wives for women like me before. Don't forget it." Without acknowledging Vivian's parting shot, Alicia strode away, concealing her trembling hands. Beyond the doors of the Colonial Hotel lounge, she allowed a single tear to slip down her cheek. but that was all the emotion she would yield. It was time for Alicia Montgomery to prepare for war. The evening after her confrontation with Vivian, Alicia sat in her spacious study, perched at an antique mahogany desk that once belonged to her grandfather. She traced the intricate carvings on its surface, while the weight of impending decisions pressed down on her. She knew that mere confrontation wouldn't be enough. Lucas, driven by ego and infatuation, would likely deny wrongdoing and continue on his reckless path. Vivian, emboldened by her sense of power, would not vanish quietly. If Alicia wanted to safeguard her reputation and protect her daughter Sophia, she needed a plan that went beyond emotional accusations. She remembered a conversation from years ago with Jonathan Stark, an old family friend who specialized in crisis management for the wealthy. He once told her, "Scandals aren't about what actually happened, they're about the narrative you create around it. If you can control the narrative, you control the outcome." Alicia had never thought she would need to use such advice in her personal life. Yet here she was, confronted by betrayal and a cunning mistress who threatened to dismantle everything. Alicia called Jonathan that very night, her voice calm but urgent. Within an hour, he arrived at her home, tall, grey-haired, and impeccably dressed. Jonathan had handled everything from corporate embezzlement crises to political campaign nightmares. He listened to Alicia's story with unwavering focus, asking pointed questions about her marriage, Lucas's business interests, and any vulnerabilities that might exist in Vivian's background. "Your husband is a high-profile figure with enormous assets," Jonathan said, pacing the room. "This is as much about his public image as it is about your marriage. If this scandal breaks in the press, it could undermine not only your personal reputation, but also Lucas's business deals. Investors might pull out, and you'd face humiliating headlines." Alicia nodded. She already felt the intense humiliation in just thinking about a public spectacle. She could well imagine the tabloids, millionaire's wife scorned by cunning mistress. It made her stomach turn. Jonathan continued, "We need to gather irrefutable evidence not just of the affair, but of any questionable dealings that might tie Vivian and Lucas together financially. If we can show that she's exploiting him, or if she's engaged in unethical practices at her brokerage firm, we can strike back." Alicia remembered Vivian's mocking words and the glint in her eye. "She definitely has her own agenda," she said. "I don't believe she's in this for love. She might be seeking a permanent seat at the table, perhaps marriage or a hefty settlement if things implode." Jonathan tapped his chin. "Which means we need to prove she's after more than your husband's heart. If she's blackmailing him or leveraging inside information, that could be valuable. We also need to protect you legally. We want no doubt about your innocence if this affair triggers a messy divorce." Alicia's chest tightened at the mere mention of divorce. She pictured her daughter, Sophia, and the routine of their daily life: piano lessons, school events, reading bedtime stories together. It was all so normal, so separate from the drama that threatened to engulf them. Jonathan placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "We'll handle this discreetly. But you need to decide one thing now. Do you want to salvage your marriage, or do you want to leave him?" A long silence followed, as Alicia thought. After everything, did she still love Lucas enough to fight for their future, or did she want to walk away, shattering the illusions of the life they built? She couldn't form a definitive answer. "I'm not sure," she said finally, "but I do know I can't let her win. I need to protect Sophia, my reputation, and everything my family has worked for." Jonathan nodded. "Understood. Let's get to work." And so a secret strategy emerged. By day, Alicia played the dutiful society wife, smiling for the cameras at charity events and gracefully supporting Lucas at his business dinners. By night, She and Jonathan gathered intel, forging alliances with carefully selected individuals who could keep their involvement hidden. Each new piece of evidence was quietly collected and stored, forming the framework of a legal and reputational fortress. Alicia was determined to ensure that if Vivian ever dared to go public or attempt blackmail, the mistress would learn the hard way that Alicia Montgomery was not a woman to be trifled with. As the weeks passed, Alicia steeled herself for the confrontation she had been avoiding, telling Lucas that she knew. Their relationship had become a hollow performance, a charade filled with silent dinners, forced small talk, and nights spent in separate bedrooms. Gone were the playful jokes, the midnight discussions about politics and philanthropy, and the comfortable familiarity of a couple who had grown together. In their place was an uneasy tension, thick enough to choke on. One evening after Sophia had gone to bed, Alicia found Lucas in his office, the scent of brandy lingering in the air. He was flipping through property portfolios, but the lines of worry etched into his face betrayed that his mind was elsewhere. Summoning her courage, Alicia closed the door behind her. "We need to talk," she said quietly. Lucas glanced up, mild surprise crossing his features. "Alicia, it's late. Can we do this tomorrow?" She shook her head, approaching him slowly. "No, we'll do it now." She paused, meeting his gaze squarely. "I know about you and Vivian Brooks." His entire body stiffened and the color drained from his face. For a moment, words seemed to fail him. Alicia watched a swirl of panic and guilt flicker in his eyes before he settled into stony denial. "What are you talking about?" he demanded, forcing an incredulous scoff. "Don't insult my intelligence," Alicia said, her voice trembling with quiet rage. "I have evidence, Lucas. Phone records, photographs, eyewitness accounts. Don't tell me you have no idea who she is." He stood up, running a hand through his hair. "It's not what you think," he insisted lamely. "She's a broker, and I've been discussing potential investments with her. Maybe it looks suspicious, but—" Alicia cut him off. "Howard Winters followed you to a weekend getaway in Santa Barbara. You weren't finalizing real estate deals in that private suite." The pain in her voice seeped through. "So don't lie to me." Lucas's eyes flashed with anger, but deep down he recognized the futility of denial. "Fine," he snapped. "It happened, all right, but it doesn't mean anything. It was a mistake, one I regret." Alicia's composure faltered. She felt tears burn the corners of her eyes. "Do you regret it? Because you kept seeing her, even after you knew it was wrong." He inhaled sharply, struggling to maintain control. "I've been under a lot of pressure. Work is stressful. Sometimes I just need an escape. Someone who spare me the excuses," Alicia whispered. "I wanted you to be honest, at least now, but you're still making me the villain by claiming stress." He fell silent, glaring at the wall. The tension in the room escalated, thick with unspoken animosity. Alicia remembered the fleeting innocence of their early years, and the memory twisted like a knife in her heart. After a long silence, Lucas finally asked, "What do you want from me, Alicia? Do you want to leave, or do you want to try and fix this?" The question hung in the air like a precarious chandelier. Alicia thought of Sophia, of their public image, of the labyrinth of love and betrayal that had trapped them both. "I don't know yet," she admitted. "But understand this, I'm not going to be humiliated in front of the world. If you can't or won't cut ties with Vivian, I will do whatever is necessary to protect myself and our daughter." Lucas nodded, his expression grim. "I'll end it," he said, though there was a hollow ring to his voice. "I promise." She studied him, unsure if she believed a word. Without another sound, she turned and left the office, her eyes damp but her resolve unbroken. She knew Lucas might try to salvage their marriage, at least publicly, but there was no certainty he would truly let go of Vivian. And Alicia suspected that Vivian, seeing the taste of power and wealth, would not walk away quietly. One thing was certain, the final showdown was still ahead. Days after Alicia confronted Lucas, he made a show of coming home earlier, feigning enthusiasm for family dinners, and even cancelled several upcoming business trips. But Alicia sensed this was a surface-level performance, a temporary retreat to smooth her suspicions. In unguarded moments, she caught him staring at his phone, hesitation in his eyes, as though itching to respond to clandestine messages. Meanwhile, Alicia received a cryptic text from an unknown number. "I thought I'd see you at the Beverly Hills fundraiser tonight, Mrs. Montgomery. Pity you're missing it." Alicia's stomach churned at the brazen intrusion into her personal life. Vivian clearly wasn't content to slink back into the shadows, not when she had a millionaire's attention and a taste of a luxurious future. Alicia felt that this woman was more dangerous than ever, possibly planning a confrontation that would thrust their affair into the public eye. To confirm her suspicions, Alicia arranged another meeting with Jonathan Stark. They gathered in a discreet corner of a high-end cafe, far from the usual haunts of the society crowd. Over cappuccinos and hushed voices, Alicia explained Vivian's text message and her brazen confidence. Jonathan frowned, tapping his pen against a notepad. "She's not going to let Lucas go easily. There's a strong likelihood she's anticipating some form of settlement if he tries to formally cut ties. Or worse, she might threaten to go public with private information, real or fabricated, that could damage you and Lucas." Alicia pressed her lips together. "I won't let her hold my family hostage. But I need a solid strategy for when she makes her next move." Jonathan nodded. "I'm digging into her background, financial records, past relationships, any skeletons that might be lurking. If she's done this before, or if she has shady business dealings, we can use that to discredit her. But you must remain composed. Don't give her ammunition. Any emotional outburst or threat made by you could be twisted and used against you." Alicia remembered Vivian's composed smirk, the practiced confidence in her voice, and understood that the mistress was not merely after Lucas's affections. She had her sights set on a life of privilege, and if Alicia's downfall was the price of admission, Vivian would pay it gladly. The next night, Alicia attended a high-profile charity gala alone. She arrived in a graceful black gown, exuding the poise of a woman in control of her destiny. The event buzzed with speculation as to why Lucas was absent, but Alicia smiled politely and refused to address the rumors. To her surprise, Vivian Brooks also appeared at the gala, decked in a red sequin dress that captured more attention than Alicia wished to grant. She mingled with ease among donors and socialites. Alicia fought the impulse to confront her in public, remembering Jonathan's warning. Across the room, Vivian caught Alicia's eye and raised her champagne flute in a mocking toast. Alicia felt anger rip through her, yet she maintained her composure. In that moment, she realized how cunningly Vivian was weaving her way into society. By attending the same events and wooing the same circles, Vivian was challenging Alicia in her own realm, eager to demonstrate that she could stand toe-to-toe with the millionaire's wife. But Alicia had an ace up her sleeve, the meticulously collected evidence of the affair, as well as the beginnings of a plan that might expose Vivian's true nature. She refused to let this calculating mistress rewrite the narrative of her own life story. Standing tall under the bright chandeliers, Alicia smiled serenely at the watchers, determined to maintain the upper hand, even if every nerve in her body thrummed with tension. Alicia's carefully laid plans took an unexpected turn when she received a call from a woman she'd never met. Isabella Carmichael, an up-and-coming attorney who'd recently transferred to one of the city's most prestigious law firms. Alicia knew the firm by reputation. It represented high-profile clients in messy divorces, corporate fraud, and scandal cases. Unsure of the purpose behind Isabella's call, Alicia agreed to meet her at a secluded tea room in Pasadena. Tall, poised, and dressed in a crisp navy suit, Isabella greeted Alicia with a polite smile and gestured for her to take a seat. "Thank you for agreeing to meet me on such short notice." Alicia settled in, feeling a flutter of anxiety. "I have to admit, I'm curious as to why a lawyer from Morgan and Hathaway would want to speak with me." Isabella leaned forward, folding her hands neatly. "I prefer to be discreet, but let's just say I've heard certain rumors and have come across some information regarding your husband and Vivian Brooks." A prickle of apprehension ran down Alicia's spine. "And why would you care about that?" "I represent a client who has been affected by Miss Brooks in the past," Isabella explained. "A few years ago, Vivian had an affair with a wealthy entrepreneur named Robert Hastings. She used their relationship to position herself in his company, eventually gaining access to confidential files. She then attempted to blackmail him, demanding a large sum to keep the affair and her knowledge of insider dealings quiet. My client was a close associate of Hastings and got pulled into the legal repercussions. Ultimately, Hastings settled with Vivian out of court, but the damage to his business reputation was severe." Alicia sat back, absorbing this new information. So Vivian had a history of ensnaring powerful men and leveraging her affair for financial gain. It seemed to confirm Alicia's worst fears that Vivian was a practiced operator who would not simply walk away empty-handed. "I see," Alicia said, keeping her voice steady. "How does that connect to me?" Isabella took a breath, weighing her words carefully. "I suspect Vivian Brooks is planning a similar strategy with your husband. If that's true, and you end up facing a public scandal or a lawsuit, you'll need all the evidence you can get to discredit her claims and protect your assets. My hope is to help you avoid the same pitfalls that destroyed Robert Hastings' standing." Though a flicker of caution remained, Alicia felt a strange relief. This was the first concrete proof that Vivian was more than just a gold-digging mistress. She was a genuine threat. "How can you help?" Isabella slid a slender folder across the table. Inside are records from the Hastings case, sealed documents that never made it to public trial. They outline Vivian's pattern of manipulation and blackmail. While I can't guarantee they'll be admissible in any future legal proceeding, they'll give you insight into her methods. And if she tries to do the same to Lucas, you'll be prepared. Alicia opened the folder, glancing at reports, emails, and statements from investigators. It was all disturbingly familiar: dinners at exclusive restaurants, gifts of expensive jewelry, hush-hush weekend trips, secret phone numbers. The pattern matched the scenario with Lucas almost exactly. As she leafed through the pages, Alicia felt a cold resolve settle in. With this knowledge, she could build a more formidable defense. And perhaps she could turn Vivian's own tactics against her. She looked at Isabella, gratitude flickering in her eyes. "Thank you," she said. "I won't forget this." Isabella nodded. "I admire your courage. Some women in your position choose to ignore the warnings or let fear paralyze them. But I see you're determined to confront this head-on." Alicia pressed her lips together, recalling the heartbreak and anger that had driven her to action. "I have no choice. This is my family we're talking about." "Indeed," Isabella agreed quietly. "Just be cautious. Vivian is good at what she does. She's not going to back off easily." Alicia nodded. "I know, but she doesn't know who she's dealing with either." With that, they parted ways, and Alicia clutched the folder tight as she walked to her car. Now she had more than suspicion, she had a weapon, and she intended to wield it with surgical precision so that when Vivian Brooks next made a move, the mistress would never see what was coming. In the days that followed, Alicia pored over the documents Isabella had given her. Each page revealed Vivian's cunning approach to seduction, manipulation, and financial exploitation. Alicia studied the timeline of events, comparing them to her own situation, noting how Vivian capitalized on moments of professional pressure or personal vulnerability in her targets. Empowered with this knowledge, Alicia decided it was time to set a trap. She orchestrated an elaborate plan with Jonathan Stark, her crisis manager, and Howard Winters, the private investigator. The setup would be simple but effective. Create a situation where Vivian believed Lucas was desperate and prepared to give her whatever she wanted: money, property, or even a promise to divorce Alicia if she kept certain damaging secrets quiet. The plan hinged on Lucas's cooperation, which Alicia was not entirely certain she could secure. But if Lucas refused to help, she'd take measures on her own. One evening, Alicia summoned Lucas to the study once again, the tension between them now more pragmatic than emotional. Despite the rift the affair had created, they shared a common desire to protect their daughter and the business empire from scandal. Lucas crossed his arms, his expression guarded. "I told you I was ending it with Vivian. What more do you need?" Alicia exhaled, trying to remain calm. "Ending it won't be enough. She's already made it clear she's not walking away. She's got her hooks in you and your finances. Now we have evidence that she's done this before, to other men, blackmail, scandal, the works." Lucas's eyes widened. "Are you sure?" She slid the folder of sealed Hastings documents across the desk. "See for yourself." "She's professional at this, Lucas, a real pro." He skimmed through the pages and a look of horror dawned on him. "I had no idea." Alicia let the anger that simmered within her rise to the surface. "No, because you're blinded by your own ego and appetites. But now you see what's at stake." Lucas rubbed his temples. "God, what do we do? Work with me," Alicia said firmly. "We'll set a trap. We'll make Vivian believe you're ready to finalize your relationship, maybe even divorce me. She'll sense there's a major payout in it, and that's when she'll reveal her true intentions. We'll record everything her demands, her threats. Once we have solid evidence, we can legally and publicly neutralize her. She'll have no choice but to back down or risk going to prison for extortion." Lucas's gaze flicked to the carpet. "I don't like deceiving people, even if it's her. But if she's capable of what Hastings said, we can't risk her destroying everything." Alicia was struck by the grim irony. Her husband, who had so casually deceived her, now balked at deceiving the woman he betrayed her with. Still, she reminded herself that Lucas's cooperation was essential. "If you won't do it for me," she said softly, "do it for Sophia. We can't allow a scandal to ruin her life." He nodded slowly, guilt flashing in his eyes. "All right, tell me how this will work." Over the next hour, Alicia spelled out the plan in detail. She would leak a rumor through Jonathan Stark that Lucas was preparing to leave his wife. Lucas would then arrange a clandestine meeting with Vivian, claiming he needed her to keep certain damaging information about his business deals confidential until the divorce was finalized. The conversation would be carefully recorded by hidden devices installed by Howard. Should Vivian ask for payment or threaten to go to the media, they would have her attempt at blackmail on tape. As they finished, Alicia studied Lucas's face. Part of her still hurt deeply. This was the man she had loved and trusted for so long. Yet here they were, scheming to entrap his mistress, forced into espionage and deception within their own marriage. She couldn't help but wonder if their relationship would ever recover from these dark machinations. But for now, Alicia pushed aside the pang of lost innocence. She had declared war, and there was no turning back. The trap was set, and Vivian Brooks would walk into it soon enough. Of that, Alicia was certain. A private suite at the Dorchester Hotel became the stage for Alicia's carefully orchestrated trap. Late in the afternoon, Lucas checked in under an alias, using a side entrance to avoid drawing attention. Howard Winters had already installed subtle recording equipment in the lamps and behind the wall-mounted television. Jonathan Stark was stationed in a rented room across the hall, ready to intervene if anything went awry. According to the plan, Lucas had texted Vivian earlier in the day, "We need to talk. Urgent." Meet me at the Dorchester, Suite 612 at 7 p.m. Come alone. From her vantage point, Alicia waited in a separate hotel room down the corridor, accompanied by Jonathan and one of his trusted legal associates. She wore a simple blouse and slacks, her hair pulled back in a tight bun. Gone were the designer gowns and dazzling jewels that so often adorned her public persona. Tonight, Alicia was a strategist, watchful and poised for the final confrontation. At precisely 7 p.m., cameras captured Vivian stepping off the elevator. She wore a form-fitting dress, her hair styled in lustrous waves, confidence radiating with each step. Alicia's heart pounded as she watched the live feed from the hidden camera in the hallway. Vivian paused briefly at the door to Suite 612, then knocked. Inside, Lucas greeted her. Howard's recording gear picked up every sound. Vivian's voice carried an edge of triumph. "So, you finally come to your senses." Lucas sighed heavily, making sure to project the weary desperation. Alicia and Jonathan had coached him to adopt. "I can't keep living this lie." Alicia and IWERE basically done. She's too wrapped up in her public image, and we have no real connection anymore. Vivian moved closer. "And what does that mean for us?" Lucas cast his gaze downward, as though nervous. "I want to be with you, Vivian, but I need your help. This divorce is going to be messy, especially if Alicia suspects it's because of another woman. There's some questionable financial details I'm trying to keep under wraps. I need you to promise not to say anything publicly if she starts digging." A small smile tugged at Vivian's lips. "Of course, darling. I'll keep any secrets you want under the right conditions." Lucas pretended to frown. "What do you mean?" Vivian took a seat on the plush couch, crossing her legs. "Let's be honest, Lucas. We both know you're a powerful man with significant assets. If you expect me to hide aspects of our relationship and whatever else I've learned about your business deals, I'll need assurances, financial assurances." For a moment, the audio feed caught only the soft hum of the suite's air conditioner. Alicia, watching from down the hall, felt adrenaline spike through her. This was exactly what they needed, Vivian explicitly asking for money in exchange for silence. Lucas feigned disappointment. "I thought that we had something real." Vivian's laugh was low and pointed. "Real enough, but let's not pretend this relationship started without its share of secrets. I've risked a lot by being with you. My reputation, my job." She let the words trail off, then added, "Look, I'm not asking for anything outrageous, but I need security. Enough to protect me from any fallout." Lucas looked at her, eyes clouded with feigned reluctance. "You're talking about blackmail." Vivian pouted. "Such an ugly word, Lucas. I see it as an arrangement, a win-win." In the hidden monitoring room, Alicia pressed her hand to her mouth in shocked disbelief, even though she had anticipated this outcome. Hearing Vivian's blatant demands was more painful and maddening than she had imagined. But it was also the evidence they needed. Vivian continued, her voice smooth. "Let's say $10 million wired into an offshore account. In return, I'll keep every secret you have locked away, and I'll support whatever story you spin about your divorce. No one ever needs to know about me." Lucas swallowed hard. 10 million is a lot. Do I at least get your commitment that you'll be with me after this is all done? Vivian's smirk curled like a cat's. "I'll consider it, depending on how smoothly things go with Alicia. Think about it, darling. This is your future. It's worth every penny." The audio feed crackled with silence for a moment before Lucas cleared his throat. "Give me some time to arrange everything." Vivian rose, trailing a hand over his shoulder. "I'll wait, but not for long. And if I don't get what I want, I won't hesitate to protect my own interests." Moments later, the suite door clicked shut behind her. In the control room, Jonathan turned to Alicia, adrenaline evident in his eyes. "We got it," he said softly. "We have everything on tape." Alicia exhaled, relief and fury mingling in a heady rush. The noose had tightened around Vivian Brooks, and there would be no easy escape from the damning evidence. Alicia gathered her composure. Let's see how she reacts when she realizes the game she's playing just ended. Alicia wasted no time putting the damning recording to use. Working with Jonathan Stark and Isabella Carmichael, the lawyer who had provided insights about Vivian's past, Alicia orchestrated a strategic strike. They first filed an affidavit detailing Vivian's blackmail attempts, referencing her pattern of behavior from the Robert Hastings case. Isabella's legal team discreetly submitted the paperwork under seal, ensuring Vivian would be served without warning. Simultaneously, Alicia leveraged her considerable influence with the city's media. Though she had no desire to humiliate Lucas publicly, she recognized that controlling the narrative meant revealing enough of Vivian's underhanded schemes to tarnish the mistress's credibility. A carefully curated leak to a prominent reporter at the Los Angeles Daily Chronicle was arranged. Within hours, the story was online, albeit with Alicia's name kept primarily out of the direct spotlight. High-profile real estate entrepreneur allegedly targeted by Mistress in blackmail plot. Sources claim extortion tactics mirror previous scandal. No names were explicitly confirmed, but the references were clear enough for anyone in elite circles to piece the puzzle together. The story included quotes from a confidential source detailing how a cunning broker had been recorded demanding an astronomical sum in return for silence about an affair and potential insider trading information. Vivian's reaction was immediate and explosive. Shortly after the story broke, she barged into the Montgomery estate without warning. The security guard at the front gate, who'd been strictly instructed never to let her in, found himself bulldozed by her furious rant and eventually allowed her entry. She stormed into the mansion's grand foyer, her hair a disheveled mess, eyes wild with panic. Alicia, poised on the marble steps leading to the second floor, regarded Vivian with an icy calm that belied the tempest inside her. "Vivian, I'm surprised you'd show your face here." Vivian hissed. "What have you done? That article, those allegations. I can't believe you'd stoop this low." Alicia descended a step, lifting her chin. "You did this to yourself. Threatening my husband with blackmail, demanding money. Don't act shocked that it backfired." Vivian's voice shook with rage. "I can sue you for defamation. You have no proof." A cold smile curved Alicia's lips. "Proof?" She motioned toward a hallway leading to Lucas's home office. "We have a recording of you demanding $10 million. We have your text messages. We have testimony from another victim who's already confirmed your pattern of extortion." Vivian's eyes darted around, as if searching for an escape. Then her gaze snapped back to Alicia. "You think you can just destroy me? People will find out about Lucas, about your sham marriage. It'll ruin you both." Alicia's voice remained measured. "Lucas and I will handle the fallout. But for you, attempted extortion is a crime. My legal team has already filed the paperwork. You'll be dealing with prosecutors soon enough. And if you dare try to publish or speak out about anything regarding Lucas's business deals, we'll release additional evidence that shows your illegal tactics. The press won't see you as a poor, victimized mistress. They'll see you as a serial blackmailer." Vivian's lips trembled, her bravado faltering. You can't do this to me." Alicia's eyes flickered with a mixture of sorrow and anger. "I'm protecting my daughter, my life, and what I've worked so hard to build. I gave you a chance to walk away. You refused. Now you face the consequences." For a moment, Vivian stood there, grappling with shock. Then, with her last ounce of fury, she spat. "You'll regret this, Alicia. You might ruin me now, but you'll never be happy with that cheating husband of yours." Never. Alicia's heart clenched. A swirl of emotions threatened to overwhelm her: anger, sadness, and the faint echo of the love she once felt for Lucas. But she stood resolute, unyielding. "Perhaps not," she said, voice soft. "But I won't let you destroy us on your way out." Tears of rage welled in Vivian's eyes, but she turned and stormed away, slamming the heavy oak door behind her. As the echoes of her departure reverberated through the mansion, Alicia pressed a hand to her chest. She had won a critical battle, yet the cost weighed heavily on her. Vivian's words about Lucas struck a chord she could not ignore. The victory over the Mistress was complete, but what did it mean for her marriage now? In the tumultuous days that followed, Alicia felt as though she had lived a lifetime. Vivian Brooks was swiftly charged with attempted extortion after the authorities reviewed the recordings. Headlines raged about a rogue broker who targeted elite men in intricate blackmail schemes. While speculative media outlets tried to hint at Lucas's affair, Alicia's strategic legal moves kept the focus on Vivian's wrongdoing rather than the Montgomery marriage. The hush around Lucas's identity as Entrepreneur X left just enough ambiguity that public scrutiny dissipated, saving Alicia and her daughter from the worst tabloid nightmares. Yet behind the polished facade, Alicia knew there was no simple resolution. Her trust in Lucas had been profoundly shattered. He too appeared haunted, pacing the halls of their mansion, unsure how to reconcile the humiliation of nearly losing everything to a manipulative mistress. Late one evening, Alicia found him sitting alone on the terrace, staring at the moonlit ocean. "I guess we did it," he said softly, hearing her footsteps behind him. "We escaped the scandal. Our reputations, our assets, they're safe." Alicia stepped beside him, gripping the railing. "Yes, but at what cost?" Lucas turned, despair flickering in his eyes. "I'm so sorry, Alicia. I let my ego and weakness destroy what we had. I don't deserve forgiveness." She closed her eyes, remembering the young man she fell in love with, the countless nights they spent dreaming of a better future. "I don't know if we can ever go back to what we were," she murmured. "But we have a daughter. She needs stability and love. Maybe we can start there." Lucas exhaled, a tear slipping down his cheek. "I understand," he said, voice trembling. "I'll do whatever it takes to make things right, even if it means accepting we'll never be the same." Alicia's eyes stung with tears, one step at a time, and so began a tentative coexistence. For Sophia's sake, they chose to remain under the same roof, at least temporarily. Couples therapy sessions were scheduled, though Alicia wasn't certain if her heart could heal from such a betrayal. She felt a strange mixture of victory and grief, a sense of power in having vanquished Vivian, yet an aching emptiness in realizing how the affair had eroded her marriage's foundation. Meanwhile, Vivian Brooks faced a string of legal battles, her once glamorous life evaporating in the public glare of criminal allegations. Rumors suggested she might flee the city once her trial was over, taking whatever remnants of her dignity remained. Alicia felt a hollow satisfaction at the mistress's downfall, but also a lingering sadness for the tragedy of it all. In her private moments, Alicia visited the greenhouse she had built years ago as a personal sanctuary. Among the fragrant orchids and blooming roses, she allowed herself to cry, to reflect on the innocence she had lost. And then, slowly, she began to plan her next steps. She reached out to philanthropic organizations, launched new charitable initiatives, and considered rebranding her image. Perhaps, she mused, there was life beyond being simply Miss S. Lucas Montgomery. Looking in the mirror, Alicia hardly recognized the woman she had become, steeled by betrayal, sharpened by conflict, but also enlightened. She had seen the darkness that lurked beneath wealth's gilded surface, and she had emerged, scarred but unbroken. Now she understood that real strength wasn't found in illusions of perfection. It was found in facing the harshest truths and refusing to let them define you. Betrayal doesn't have to mean the end. It can spark a new beginning. Alicia Montgomery's carefully constructed world nearly crumbled under an affair's weight. Yet through cunning, resilience, and unwavering determination, she rose to challenge her husband's mistress, exposing the plot that threatened her entire family. The confrontation left scars on her marriage, her trust, and her sense of identity. But it also revealed Alicia's true power, the will to protect what she cherished most and forge her own path forward. If you were captivated by Alicia's story, her courage under fire, her strategic brilliance, and her hard-earned resolve, please show your support. Hit the like button. Share this video with friends who crave a gripping real-life drama, and subscribe to the channel for more riveting stories that delve into the highs, lows, and ultimate triumphs of the human heart. Thank you for watching, and stay tuned for our next dramatic tale.